I say we should bring back the weirdos, and the nerds. Bring those people back in entertainment. Because when they were in entertainment, they actually sold good games. They sold good movies, good like TV shows, good products. Off the back of the losers. The people that are bullied for liking, like fucking Pokemon or something, or Star Trek. When they were on the helms, these companies would actually make money, and it's like, okay, fine. They were shoved in the fucking basement, right? But man, were they fucking cooking. There's like a fucking lab of wizards down there cooking some of the best damn entertainment for again the companies that nowadays just lose money. They've shoved out the nerds and injected the salespeople. They injected the diversity hires into the gaming, and unfortunately, we're not making good games. Like, we're not getting good Western entertainment out of this. We're getting slop, the things that are just for mass consumption, mass production. You don't really get any good storytelling, or if you do, it's maybe like a couple of little things of it, but that's just about it. And I tell this to people, and they just get irrationally mad at me. Like, again, I'm using the power of foresight. Like, we don't gotta pretend this wasn't the case. And again, if a better explanation exists as to why Halo in the past sells and Halo now doesn't, I mean, and I'm assuming there is one. Same thing with like Star Wars, or the same thing with like Warhammer 40K. I guess Warhammer 40K is a bad example. I mean, it does surprisingly still sell on its models. But you used to get so many like good games. Like, I think there was even a TV series, like a web series for a little bit. They weren't just trying to sell you the figures that are now so goddamn expensive, because most of them you can only really get in like $3,000 packs. Like, I'm starting to agree. Gaming is now for the rich, you know, because now things are so fucking expensive, and it's not like you're getting a better product. You're just getting a serviceable product, right? And then you have good games that do come out, but they're attacked. Game journalists, which does have power over the normies, will attack legitimately good games and prop up bad games. Like, they're trying to be the ultimate equalizer here. But gaming seems to be the only place where that's just not accepted, and they're now going into this like spot death spiral because they don't want to admit that game journalism is bad, and most mainstream AAA companies are bad and make up bad products. You can't admit to the chuds that they're right and you were wrong, but look, the chuds hold the money, right? The chuds holds all the power in this argument. You're just here because we simply allow it. So you shut the fuck up and let the chuds speak. And we're gonna let a chud speak right now. I don't like doing a lot of reaction videos because I don't know. People tend to not really like you just reacting to a video, but look, with a title like this, I have to. And alright, even Lucy's like, fuck yeah, bro, you react to this shit.
Imagine being blamed for not buying enough when they're the ones that are making everything too expensive to buy. How many of you guys have been sitting around asking, when is this going to stop? It's not.
No, the problem is, okay, blame me, yes. I am actively not giving you my money. And I'm gladly not doing it. I sleep happily knowing that you're not getting my money. You want to blame me again. Gaming is the only industry where, like, the consumer, the market is attacked for not consuming, for not buying games. And again, you're like, okay, we'll just make good games, and you're being told no, you will not get good games, and you should accept this bad slop and be happy. And if you don't, and they'll use like buzzwords towards you, they'll throw isms and phobes at you for not liking a bad product, just a bad product. Like, you can even take away the wokeness, right? The quote unquote wokeness. And what do you have? You just have a bad product, a bad game. A game where it holds your hand, like Dragon Age Veilguard, that holds your hand. No one really, your teammates don't die. So if you just keep dodging, the game effectively plays itself. It's like a visual novel. There's nothing that's abrasive. Like Concord, just purposefully eye gouging aesthetics. The game functioned, but we all know why Overwatch was popular, and if I have to explain it to you, I guess you just don't need to understand. Your understanding is not required. Like, I shouldn't go on these fucking tangents. I should just let them speak.
I got to the point where the price to just live, let alone even buy a video game, is getting out of the reach of damn near everyone. And now we have PlayStation raising their prices for the second time in less than a year, $100 across the board. And this is coming off of the tail of other price increases that we've seen already throughout the entire industry. Nintendo, Xbox, PC gaming hardware.
And this is coming off the backs of all the layoffs that are happening, like saturating like the job market with people. So let's be honest, they've probably fired a lot of people that they were going to fire anyway. But AI, so goodbye. They probably fired. They maybe fired some of the diversity hires that weren't actually doing anything. They weren't adding anything. They're just there to cover the company's ass, right? Or they fired some of the old heads that were working there 20-ish, 25 years and were about to retire. But then the industry's like, nah, peace out. But again, on the backs of that, Sony's raising the price of its consoles, and it can do this because it's the monopoly. Xbox has shat the bed, and they don't even know what to do. Like, they hired a new CEO or whatever, Asha, whatever the hell her name is, some Indian woman, and it's like, okay, so what do you plan on doing? Well, who the fuck knows? Well, what she's going to do, she doesn't even know because she haven't told us.
It just feels like it won't stop. All these guys are sitting around, these executives, talking about how all these price increases are supposed to feel inevitable. Like it's just a bridge that we have to cross, but that bridge is now turned into an escalator that the vast majority of people cannot afford to get on. None of this is necessary. They're all lying to you. Every single one of them. They can cry AI, they can talk about market headwinds, they can talk about shortages or inflation or whatever they want, but at the end of the day, all this is these are companies that do not want to take any accountability. They would much rather hand over and pass down their mistakes to you, the customer. And
again, that's not like anything out of the ordinary. Like, if you played Total War Warhammer, that's how CA acts. And again, companies will always do something like this, like it's happening with utility companies, entertainment companies. It's like something happens, whatever it may be, whether it's a war or a pandemic or whatever the case may be. They'll raise the price by 100%. And then as it goes away, they can't really use it as an excuse. They'll maybe lower it by like 30% and be like, okay, well, this is the new normal. Now and I've said this to a friend, like, you effectively have to pay people like 1.7 times what they're paid now to make up for, the increases of the prices of things. To have people live at least the point they were in the 2010s, 2011s, and 12s. Like, you damn near need to almost pay people double just to make up for that. But what do they say? Like, that's a discussion that you're not ready for. That's the thing. Intellectual people try to say, just to sort of pass it off. Like, okay, I'm gonna make an inquiry, but no, let's move on. We ain't ready for that. So yeah, that's pretty much what happened. And again, this affects everything. In gaming was inevitable. But I almost think this is a good thing, right? Like, people are moving more towards indie games and indie devs, and that's a good thing. Like, people moving away from mainstream, how people are even moving away from consoles and, just accepting games or just accepting what they get to, like, new avenues. Maybe they're playing older games on their consoles. They're moving away from the $70 price tag games. And I think that's a good thing.
Make you pay the cost of it. They have taken our dedication, they have taken our loyalty, they have taken our money, and they have done nothing but churn out garbage games. Now they want to blame us for it. This entire industry is just going to eat itself alive. Today, what I want to do is I want to talk about where these prices are coming from. How apparently now video games are being made for the rich. What that's going to do for society, and also how all of this is just going to end up in flames. Before that, a word from today's sponsor, boot.dev, longtime partner of the channel and one of the best websites if you want to learn to code. Instead of just vibing out to a YouTube video in the background that you can close afterwards. If you guys actually want to learn how to do it, this is the site to use. I hop on the site in my free time because it doesn't feel like I'm actually studying. I'm earning XP, completing quests, fighting bosses, and the whole time I'm actually learning back-end development. Python, SQL, Go, real skills, the kind of stuff that would land you a job with a median salary of $100,000 or probably more, and you're doing it probably from the comfort of your own couch. There's a bear wizard named Boots that acts as your tutor. He doesn't just hand you the answers. Instead, he tries to push you towards figuring it out yourself. And then they also just drop the training grounds, which is basically infinite challenge grind, so you can really lock something in before moving on. It's the kind of thing that really respects your time without just padding out the entire course. All the content is free to read and watch, which means you could just go and teach yourself if you wanted to. Paid tiers just unlock the interactive stuff, the hands-on coding, AI help, and the full RPG experience. Go to boot.dev if you're interested and use my code LegendaryDrops at checkout. That's going to give you 25% off your first entire year on an annual plan. Link is in the description. Guys, 6 years. That's all it took for the price of video games, something that used to be one of the most accessible forms of entertainment, to get pushed damn near out of the reach of most normal people. First,
and again, when they say accessibility, right? Don't you find this weird that whenever a game is showcased, they rarely just give you the price just on the screen so you know? It's like, no, don't tell them the price, right? Because it's like they know people are going to be like, ugh, $70, like they try to hide that. And when James journalists talk about accessibility, they're rarely even talking about the price. Like, price is a factor. And I agree that if a game's good, people will pay any price for it. Unfortunately, you see this with Star Citizen. There are people paying lots of money. But I paid $70 for a game, like for Crimson Desert, like first time in years. And I'm still fucking enjoying Crimson Desert to this day. And I don't want to binge play it. I don't want to get burnt out. So there'll be a couple of breaks. But I'm enjoying the game. But price is part of accessibility. People gotta look at their finances, be like, okay, do I have the time, the money, or the ability to play this game, or do I not?
came the price increase up to $70 back in 2020, right when people were locked into their homes with not a lot of other options, and people just kind of forked the money over. Fast forward to today, and, well, the last couple of years have been nothing but constant headlines about prices going up again and again. Games hitting $80, even $100. Nintendo being the first to break the second of the 66 seals. Sorry, I've been watching a lot of Supernatural lately. Then came AI. Then came the global trade tariffs. Then,
to be fair, the Nintendo one was $80 for the physical game. You know, you get that and a bunch of other stuff that came along with it. But yeah, people still see that and they're like, "What the fuck, bro?" And there's a lot of rumors about Grand Theft Auto 6 being $100. And it's odd, but I think there are people that will pay that. Like, you look at the success of Grand Theft Auto 4, not 4, 5, and people still play that to this day. I think they can get away with that. But the problem is, I feel like 5, it would just still be superior. Like, people will play 6 just out of curiosity, then just move back to 5. Like, the only way they could get people to move to 6 is if they do what Overwatch did and just completely remove that 5 from the game and from its servers, or from Steam and its servers. But that pissed a lot of people off because people spend a lot of money on that game.
It was just a bunch of other convenient excuses that just made the prices go even further up. First, it was Xbox with Game Pass, then it was Xbox hardware went up, not once, but twice. Then PlayStation raised their hardware prices last fall, and now here we are, just 8 months later, again with PlayStation increasing the price of the PlayStation Pro to $899, which is basically brushing up against $1,000 after tax. PlayStation excused this on their website, saying, "With continued pressures in the global economic landscape, we have made the decision to increase the prices of PS5, PS5 Pro, and the PlayStation Portal Remote Player globally. We know that these price changes impact our community, and after careful evaluation, we found that this was a necessary step to ensure that we can continue delivering innovative, high-quality gaming experiences to players worldwide."
And I guess PlayStation is the only one that can really say this. Again, they're the monopoly in, like, gaming. I mean, you have Nintendo, which makes games for children but prices them for their parents to buy. Again, Xbox shit in the bed. Like, PC isn't really competing. I mean, PlayStation did say they'll hold off on releasing their main titles, and they're also muscling in as a publisher to keep other titles from being released on PC. But let's be honest, they'll just be released anyway, or, you know, people will sell the high seas for it.
Man, guys, I don't know what to tell you. This is just global pressure. It's market headwinds. We just can't avoid it. I don't know what to do. It's AI taking over the world. It's tariffs. It couldn't possibly have anything to do with Sony funding over 12 live service games only to cancel half of them, burning hundreds of millions of dollars in the process. It couldn't possibly have anything to do with the critical lack of first-party output, the 8 studios they've shut down over the past couple of years, the estimated $400 million they burned on Concord, or the fact that their biggest bet, Marathon, which allegedly was around $250 million budgeted before marketing, which means it's probably closer to $400 million all in, only managed to make over just $1 million in sales, and less than a month later is now averaging 36,000 players on Steam, a platform that makes up roughly 70% of their audience. Now, yes, I know that Marathon is some divine success that we just can't see and that the developers are in it for the long haul, but I would also like to remind everybody that Highguard had a 1-year roadmap, so maybe let's just come back down to earth for a second. Sure.
And again, and this is what I'm being told, right? You see, this is why the whole 10 people watch this is for, you know, insight I can give them, because I do speak to developers on Facebook and on X. Like, apparently there's this odd human centipede of investments that is, like, being juggled around. Like, at first I was told it was, like, tech companies like Nvidia, you know, and of that sort, but now it's being juggled around, and again, it was being juggled around in movies and TV show companies. But now it's also the same as happening in game companies because you're like, okay, why would PlayStation invest 400 million into a game? Well, they're doing it because maybe it's an investment. You know, will that money actually mean anything? Probably not. But they'll throw it into whatever this game is, and then whatever based off whatever grants and whatever money the game gets. You know, after the fact, they can shut the game down and invest back in to PlayStation. You know, there's just this revolving door of investments that, you know, after one physical or after one what's what I'm looking for, after one quarter is, I don't know, getting 10, 20, 30% in interest, which in millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars, that's a lot of money. So they're getting that and they're just investing that money back plus interest to another company. Then another quarter happens, 20, 30, 40, 50% interest, investing that money. Like, this is what I'm being told is happening. That's why you get all these like AAA companies just dumping money into products, into projects that don't sell a fucking thing, and they do it again, and they do it again, and they do it again, and it's like you'd think they'd fail, but I guess they have this human centipede of investment happening, and they literally can't.
It is global headwinds and not the fact that their live service future is now hanging on a morbidly obese Amazon that lost a foot to diabetes.
Yeah.
Now, while it might seem like I'm singling out Sony here,
and also what I've heard about this is this video is made by AI. I don't think I can go back to it, but because I did a video on this, I'm like, what the fuck is this? Apparently, the whole video was made by AI. Or at least they use AI in certain characters. Like they had, it's like someone put in time, money, and effort to draw this, and they had the AI overview because you can tell just by the particles, what the fuck is all of this happening? And you can argue, oh well, it's the things around, but you see the outline of this shit. And if you watch this video, you can tell. Other than the fact that this is just ugly and disgusting, right? I mean, I can call a fictional character an ugly, disgusting hog because she doesn't exist. You know, I can do that, right?
Obese Amazon that lost a foot to diabetes. Now, while it might seem like I'm singling out Sony here, I promise you guys that I'm not, because all of these guys are making the exact same mistakes. Xbox, just the same. These guys have taken years of players' goodwill and support and money, and they have sacrificed it on an altar of live service, of subscriptions and games that nobody ever wanted to play. And
again, you gotta also understand, they probably were given so much government grants. This is how the scheme is working. They want to take money from the taxpayer through government grants and give them to these multi-billion-dollar companies just to increase the human centipede, the Ouroboros of investment, right? And we know that DEI, all of this was, there were grants shoved in to have these things done. And again, the ugliest and most disgusting, it wouldn't have mattered in games like Baldur's Gate, because yeah, they have diversity in that game, but it's also a good fucking game. You know, they have representation in that game, but it was a good game. You know, but they're actively throwing, again, eye-gougingly ugly designs, and they're demanding you like it. And with those eye-gougingly ugly designs, oh, well, they're eligible for a government grant that gives money towards eye-gouging ugly designs.
Now, those same companies are trying to come to you and they're trying to gaslight you into believing that these price increases are somehow out of their hands. Like this is just something of the weather. It's just the market. It's just this unfortunate reality that we have no control over. No, this is cost transference. This is them pushing accountability and the cost of their own failures directly onto the customer, all to keep their shareholders happy instead of just taking the hit, digging deep, and rebuilding their trust and reputation that they have destroyed. Their belief, or rather their faith in this matter, is that, well, the players are just mindless slugs. That the hardcore gaming audience that makes up 18 to 20% of players is just going to keep buying things no matter what. That their demand is basically inelastic. It's unmoving. It's never going to change. That they can raise prices, strip value, and make mistake after mistake, and that crowd is still going to show up and just fork it over. And for everybody else, well, the rest of the sheep will just fall in line too, because they're going to convince themselves these prices are temporary when they are anything but that. Because if any of this was about economic headwinds, then the prices would eventually go back down when those winds change, but that never happens.
I mean, it happens, but it's not in any way, shape, or form to compensate, again, the 100% increase. They'll probably drop by, like, I don't know, again, 10, 20%. Like, they're trying to bank off the new generation, right? And it's unfortunate, but someone told me that, again, millennials are very nostalgic. Like, they want to have that nostalgia of back when they were the 2000s, you know, when they were a child, like the early 2000s, 2010s, and they want to enjoy, like, art and entertainment from those times. So when a new Spider-Man comes out, you know, that demographic, the millennial, is going to watch it just because it's Spider-Man, or if a new superhero movie comes out, they're going to watch it just because it's that. The problem is, I guess that only really works with that generation, but like, if you increase the price too much, and at the end of the day, people want something new. Like, when companies compete, you as the consumer wins. When they don't compete, you lose. Anime is competing with Western entertainment and is absolutely blowing it out. I gotta do a video on Fire Force. It's such a fucking amazing 10 out of 10 fucking anime. Like, just amazing anime. Everything in that anime was amazing. Every little tiny aspect of it was good. And hell, I'd watch it all again. But Western entertainment is not competing with anime. They're not really competing with each other anymore. Again, they're becoming this Ouroboros of investment that is just shoveling money towards each other, sucking up government grants and shoveling that. And again, at the end of the day, you don't get a better product with this. You do just get bad entertainment from this.
I'd like to remind people that we were once told that game prices would come down when the industry shifted into digital, but instead we just got the opposite. I'd like to also remind people that the $70 price increase didn't happen until lockdowns, when publishers and console makers were making more money than they were actually spending. They had more engagement, more investment that they ever had seen in their entire lives. Even when these guys are winning, they're still pretending like they're losing.
Yeah, but
now,
none of that really means, because again, they invested a lot into like streaming, game services, entertainment, because they thought they could get all that back. But one, you weren't getting better games and better. Okay, you got a couple. Like, people did it because they couldn't work, they couldn't go out and make money, so they're sitting at home consuming. And they got a lot of companies got bailouts for this over COVID. But they invested into it thinking that it's going to be the new normal, and it's just not. Like, again, people are going back to work. People are moving to new entertainment. You know, people are growing up, you know, and everything's becoming expensive. So you're kind of getting to think, okay, I can buy this game, or I can wait a while till it's on sale and then buy it. Like, this is what a lot of people I know is doing. They're just waiting for games to go on sale. And they're playing indie games that are like, what, 10, 20, $30? You know, I mean, at one point, the increase, and you can just keep increasing prices all you want, but at one point, people run that in their head, and you end up not making as much money as you think, because you were not a resource that you can pull from at any time. Just pull money from any, like, we are the consumer, we are the market, and if you don't give us a good product, we will move to entertainment outlets that do.
Understand that people can and largely will just keep playing what they already have for now. The long-term effects of this are going to be brutal. We are already brushing up against $1,000 consoles, and we're not even in the next generation yet, which is likely going to be even worse. That means that this is an industry that built itself on lower and middle income households, and they are now slowly cutting those people out of the picture. Gaming becomes a luxury, hardware becomes a luxury, and I genuinely do not understand how any of these companies can look at that and think that this makes any sense. This is your audience, this is the people that you need, and you're now making it harder and harder for these guys to be able to buy in at all. And
see, this is your problem, right? You're treating it like they should care. No, they hire people, they hire, the salespeople. Like, you're just a resource, you're just a number that they can pull from. The problem is this mindset is failing, and they don't want to admit that it's failing. The salesperson will never admit what they're doing is wrong, because then the company will be like, okay, why the fuck are we hiring you then? We can just hire someone else. And this is happening across many other entertainment platforms where they're just listening to the salespeople. And these are like salespeople, they're like, what positions are like directors, are like lead directors are just flying golden parachutes from one company to another. Because one of them, the benefits is the Ouroboros of investment, but the other is the talent that go from one failed product and project and fly over to make another product fail, another project flop. The problem is with the internet, people are now seeing this, and was the downfall of High Guard, because people found out, oh wow, a lot of the people that worked on Concord just flew over to High Guard. And people were like, well, why? Obviously, they're doing a bad job if you're from a failed project. But, again, the industry has shut their eyes and shut their ears and shut their mouths, other than PR speak, to the consumer, to the market, which is why we're in this situation.
Once you start pricing those people out, I don't see how this doesn't kill the console market in the next 5 years. PlayStation, especially. This is making even less sense. If their whole new strategy now is to keep their games off of PC, then shrinking your console audience is just going to destroy you. The only way that this makes any sense to me is if these guys have decided that they don't need ordinary people anymore, that wealthy households who now make up the majority of sales can carry the market, that these guys will just keep paying out no matter what, but that math doesn't math. Now, we already know that lower and middle income households are buying less and less hardware, and more of that burden is now falling onto richer households, which is a much smaller market to begin with. Households making over $100,000 a year now account for more than half of all of these purchases for all this gaming hardware, and the price increases that we're seeing is just going to push that threshold even higher, probably into the $150,000 or even $250,000 range when the rest of the economy keeps inflating.
Yeah, and this is, assuming the husband and wife make 50 grand. Like, yeah, that's about like untaxable. It's like, that's not really a lot, because again, only really, like, who really does the spending, and what do you spend on in your household? Well, obviously the woman does, the femoid does a lot of the spending. And again, we grew up at a time where, why are you playing games? Why don't you go out, like things like football why don't you go out and get a fucking job? And I'm my brother in Christ, I'm 10. I would love to get a job. But you can't hire a fucking 10-year-old because of laws. It's like, if I'm not at school for 8 hours and have to do some retarded homework, right? Which homework's stupid fucking concept, by the way. Like the amount of people that actually do take their work home is negligible. Like people that make over 100,000, 200, like 6 digits, they're the only ones that really take their work home with them. Like the average worker doesn't. Well, other than that, it's like, what do I do? Like, oh, go outside and play with your friends. Well, I can do that for a little bit, but we want to go and play fucking Halo. Can we do that? No. And it's also the fact that, like you said, everything's increasing. Like, you would think games would be that one thing, but PlayStation is, again, the monopoly, can do whatever the hell they want, apparently, in the space, because consoles just don't really compete with each other anymore.
So now you're shrinking an audience from a little over 40% of the U.S. households to 26, maybe even 16%, and the people below that just don't have any room to be able to close that gap anymore. Which brings me to something else, and maybe this is something that is just too...
And it's not like people are going to stop playing games. They're just going to pay less for games. They're going to wait till the $70 games are on sale. They're going to play indie games. They're going to play older games. Like, you're not really pricing people, like, pushing people out of the gaming space. You're just forcing them to adapt in the gaming space. And at one point, there's so much adaptation to where you have games like Crimson Desert, you have indie games that are making a crap ton more money, at least in comparison, right? I shared this on Facebook, but this guy literally cried when his indie game made 2,500,000 like players when it released. And I'm like, usually I don't like watching grown men cry, but this is one of those situations where, and again, there are tears of joy. Bro, it's like, thank God, because people don't understand all the financial burden that game developers put on, just to, like, indie game devs put on to just make a singular game, to create something out of absolutely nothing. People don't really take that into consideration because I guess they're video games and you're not supposed to care for video games, but they are your culture. The games, AAA Western games, games from America and American companies is your soft Western power, and you giving it to other places on the world. Japan understands this, which is why they're absolutely blowing Western entertainment out the fucking water. Like, there's not I don't know a single person that does not at least know what anime is, right? And I know slightly more people that actually watch anime, but what good cartoons, American cartoons, are being released? What good American games outside of the industry that is actually selling the culture? Well, not very fucking many, right? I'm not saying they don't exist. There's just very few that you can think of.
Hard for these guys to understand. Maybe they are just too ignorant to be able to get it, but the more expensive that hardware gets, the harder it is for players to enter, which means there are fewer people around to be able to buy games at all. And once that happens, these giant full production games that these guys are making starts making less and less sense. I want these companies to get better. I want these companies to shrink down, but I'm not hoping for all of these guys to die. But something like this does not give them a future. It strips one away. There's just not going to be anybody around to buy any of these games, and you're just going to choke out the hobby in a lot of cases. And if this is what's going to happen to the companies, imagine what's going to happen to the people that are already barely hanging on and using games as one of the very few things that they could still afford. I really just do not see how any of this works out in the long term. You know, one of the reasons why PC has been taking off over the past couple of years, getting bigger and bigger, is largely because people have been able to stretch older hardware a lot further than I think the industry thought that they would be able to.
Yeah, and again, like Nvidia is coming out with things where, you know, it literally just an AI filter to make older games look visually better. And it's in a way where it doesn't run your computer like a nuclear reactor. Like, we live in the age where you just don't really need a powerful PC to play good games, right? Like, you don't need to play these games on ultra settings. I mean, they look better if you do, but after what Nvidia has done and what they're talking about, I didn't do a video on it. I don't know if I will. How they're using just an AI filter. And this was the thing a lot of companies said. They're like, oh no, it's not an AI filter. It's revolutionary pixel generation, this, that, and the other. And Nvidia's like, no, it's literally just, what we're doing is literally just a filter to make things look better. Literally shitting on the idea again, what the companies would say to have people invest a lot of money. And again, you don't need the best PC for this to happen. And this is the thing I try to stress. Like, you don't really need a high functioning PC for this stuff to work and for to play games. Like, on my work PC, like, you can play quite a few indie games there on it. And even on, like, laptops. Like, this idea that you need a 3, 4, 5 grand computer just doesn't exist. Like, okay, maybe you do if you stream games or if you make videos and edit and you want to play high-end games, but it's just not really a requirement.
I just seen recently that over 50% of players on PC are still playing games at 1080p, which looks fantastic, by the way. I can attest to this. I was playing on 1080p not even all that long ago. But most of these guys are not chasing the highest end hardware. They're just chasing something that's going to last as long as possible. And also, they're probably not playing a lot of these AAA games anyway, but console's an entirely different beast. These guys don't have a choice. They're gonna get drugged forward whether they like it or not. The games start running like garbage, looking like garbage, or the console makers or the game makers just stop making games for them entirely. It's planned obsolescence, but it used to not be that bad because it was over a long period of time, and it was still a relatively inexpensive transition to be able to get into, a more exciting transition to be able to make. But no wonder PlayStation has been having such a hard time getting people off of the PS4. People can't afford it, even more so now. That's why none of the
people don't want to. Like, why? Like, you have such a cornucopia of games on the PlayStation 4 that even if you could afford it, why would you? Like, what? Okay, there are games for PlayStation, but what you hear is they're really just selling a lot of older games on their newer hardware, like remaking a lot of old games on their new PlayStation. And okay, maybe there's like 1 or 2 legitimately new games that aren't PlayStation, that eventually are just not going to be PlayStation exclusives, right? And they try to do this with Crimson Desert, where they're like, oh, hey, you can only sell on our storefront. And Crimson Desert, like Pearl Abyss, was like, no. What the fuck? Have you lost your goddamn mind? Why would we do that? I guess we'll publish the game ourselves. And Crimson Desert been popping the fuck off ever since. You know? And I don't know if Pearl Abyss is indie. I think they're one of those companies that at one point, like maybe Ubisoft or other companies outsourced to. And now they have the talent and they have the hardware, so they're like, hey, let's make our own game. And they probably made Black Desert out of all of that. But this is what's happening. Just no-name nobody studios that were just let go by or outsourced by companies and let go are just now making their own games. You know, and a lot of them were probably worked at like Ubisoft, you know, or contracted under Activision, Ubisoft by like these companies, and they're just making their own shit and they're popping off. Again, I guess you can, I guess you can consider them double A, not really triple A or indie, but I mean, they're kind of holding the industry up. Like, again, the first time I spent $70 on a game was Black Desert, and I can't say I regret that purchase.
This, that's why I'm struggling to understand what the broader strategy is here. Honestly, I don't even think there is one, because all this is doing is shrinking your console base, which is also then cutting off new buyers.
Nah, the long term strategy is hopefully the new generation doesn't care and will just buy the schlop. This is the strategy. Like they know they've lost the current generation. They know they lost the current market and consumer base. So they're hoping, you know, everything raises in price, inflation keeps going up, and then the new generation just sort of gets like, if I'm gonna use a Reddit term, the frog is boiled enough to where they can't jump out. They're just stuck there. And PlayStation again is in the best position because no one's competing with them. Not even PC is really competing with them. You know, at least not directly. Like they're not really beefing with each other because a lot of PlayStation games end up on PC anyway.
And by extension of that, it's crashing your hardware appeal, it's killing game sales, and it's just dragging the rest of the games industry down with it. These studios are effectively like stores in a mall, and the console is the mall, but the mall just locked the doors. Now, while I know a lot of people are going to hear this...
No, they didn't lock the doors. You got to pay a quarter to open the door, right? Everything's a subscription. Like, everything, like, apparently you can rent fucking PlayStations. I'm like, what the hell? What? You rent a PlayStation? What does that even mean? Like, in 2010, if you're like, oh, well, you can rent a TV or rent a console, you'll be like, what? Like, I understand the idea of renting a vehicle, kind of. I mean, you can get a 2, 3, 4,000 shit hauler, and I get it, kind of fix it up, but you know, okay, you rent a decent vehicle, whatever. But renting like a console, that is some dystopian ass shit if I've ever heard. Like, literally, that's the type of you will own nothing and be happy, which is kind of why a lot of people are constrained into the Xbox Game Pass. And wait, don't you pay for the PlayStation thing? Because there was a time where you didn't even, like, the whole PlayStation Online thing was free. I think it was for the third PlayStation. Like, you could just access online for free. But obviously that fell through.
They're going to be like, yeah, whatever. Okay, I'm just going to, keep getting by. I'm going to coast by on the games that I already have or the hardware that I already have. That's true, but I think that it dodges out on a much larger issue, which is who these guys are locking out. Thinking about the new players, the new people, the young people, the students, the families that no longer can justify buying into this hobby anymore. I think we should probably talk about the people that they're locking out. I try to be a champion of fair pricing because honestly, it is just my biggest concern, not only as a content creator, but just as a person. I did not come from money, and no matter how much success I find or how old I get, I'm always going to be worried about how much something costs because it's just baked into my DNA at this point. Even more so with video games because they were so instrumental in keeping me out of trouble and helping me make friends and keeping me sane. And
yeah, he's like me. Like, I'm always the type of person that's like, okay, what do I get from buying? Like, I guess it's a mindset You got the broke mindset, even though you're not really broke. It's like, so I can buy this, or I could buy three of this or one of this. It's like, this is how I think about games, right? Like, I set aside an amount of money every month for my hobbies because I choose to. And it's like, okay, with this amount of money, what can I buy? Well, I decided to this month. I decided to blow it all on Crimson Desert, right? That's the only game I'm gonna be playing for probably the next couple months or half a year. Well, hold on. There's another game coming out called House of Mouse or Mouse PI for Hire. It's kind of like well, did Mickey Mouse have that old like Disney-esque cartoonish style, or I can't remember of the thing, the like Oswald, I think they called it. Yeah, it's kind of that style, only like that artistic style, but it's a Doom clone. Like, I might get that. I think it comes out on the 16th. But see, this is how I'm thinking, right? That game's probably going to be $25-ish. I mean, I'll be running a little bit over, but for a game that I'm enjoy, but for the most part, I'm just playing older games like Nikkei Gods of Victory. Thousands of hours in that goddamn game. You know, modding Total War Warhammer 3. 600, 700 hours into that game, right? This is what, like, I don't think anyone's getting shoved out. People are just adapting. They're like, okay, does this game look good? And if there's a single thing where the game doesn't look good or it has some weird, stupid social thing into it, I'm just not going to buy it. I'm going to wait until it's, like, at a discount. This is how people are thinking. Wow, I keep
Most importantly, helping me save money. Like a lot of millennials, I graduated high school, immediately went to college for something that I was not cut out for, maxed out my credit cards, built up college debt, dropped out, and then found myself stuck working dead-end jobs, trying to survive, and just trying to figure out who the hell I even was. Years and years of living paycheck to paycheck. Years of feeling stuck. And through all of that, the one thing that I always had was video games. The one affordable thing. The one thing that I could hold on to. The one escape that I had. And now I'm watching entire generations and entire households get locked out of it entirely. The first people getting hit by all this are low-income households, which is exactly what is making this so disgusting to me. The people who need access to cheaper entertainment the most are the ones that are being cut off from it, especially depending on what kind of living conditions you grew up in. I got a bunch of friends of mine that would straight up tell you that if it wasn't for video games, they probably would have ended up on drugs or had a kid before they were 16. That's not me being dramatic. That's just real life in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, there are so many vices out there. And again, if you want to consider video games a vice, sure, I'm not going to argue it out of you, but you can agree, just like I do, that there's so much worse vices out there that people can be doing. I have the fucking hiccups. But instead of that, they're playing fucking World of Warcraft, you know, in their home with their friends online that they've made. And a lot of connections were made via the internet by playing games. I'd say a good majority of the friends I have on Xbox were made through playing For Honor and Warframe. It was just me and like another guy that played World of Warcraft. And it was like, what, 3 or 4 other people. But again, connections were made through these games. And again, what if, like, people, you know, a kid's autistic, they just are incapable of understanding social cues or any of that, and they struggle to make friends. You know, this is something that does happen, and people do this thing where they like to pretend it doesn't, and therefore in their mind it doesn't, but you know, these situations, like, it is a thing, but instead of, you know, getting themselves in trouble, they're playing video games. Or, you know, some people are just born in gang-infested environments. Like, okay, They go outside and do what? Join a gang, get in trouble, depending on their situation or where they live. It's like, is that better than just sitting and playing games? I mean, I don't think it is. But I mean, this is the boomer mindset that if you just think about it for 5 seconds, makes absolutely no sense.
Gen Z, Gen A, students, casual gamers, low-income households, all of these groups are just getting pushed further and further out of the market because either these guys just flat out don't have the money for this, or they can't justify spending that kind of money on something that they just don't have enough free time to be able to make worth it, especially at these prices. And man, that's just so sad to me because gaming has always had a relatively low barrier of entry. People like to shrug this entire thing off and pull the whole pull yourself up by your bootstraps routine, or start parroting some TikTok life coach about how you should be spending all of your time making money. But people need joy.
Yeah, human beings don't act like that. Like, even the very people that tell you to live like this don't. Like, okay, they have different things that they care about. Hell, maybe even some of them do like enjoy making money and investing. But I mean, people are allowed to enjoy things that add absolutely nothing of value to their lives, but I mean, don't entirely harm them. Like, vices are allowed to exist. Again, if you want to consider video games vices, okay, maybe you do have a video game addiction, right? There are a hell of a lot worse vices you can get into.
In their lives, or they start to lose their damn minds. Back when I was stuck working at a gas station, back when I had no money to go out, I couldn't go out to concerts or anything like that with my friends, and I felt like I was going nowhere, video games were still there for me. Instead of me blowing my money on drinking or some other dumb shit, I could buy 1 or 2 games a year, and I could stretch those games forever. Night after night, I'd be playing online hockey leagues with NHL, or I'd be talking shit in FPS lobbies with my friends, dumping what felt like hundreds of hours into an RPG, and honestly, if I didn't have that, I don't know where I would have ended up. I think what bothers me the most about all of this is that I already know where this all ends. I know exactly what their plan is. It's clear as day to see. They do not intend to leave these people behind. No, they intend to use them, to squeeze more money out of them than they ever could have through ownership. Middle and lower income households and players are just going to get pushed into one lane. Mobile, subscriptions, cloud gaming, maybe even leasing consoles like PlayStation has already floated in the past.
Oh my fucking god, I was just talking about this. This is so fucking stupid, bro. Leasing a console? Again, a console. $9.95, was that euros per month? I heard it was only in like the UK. Oh my god, that's just, again, you own nothing and be happy. It's becoming more and more relevant. Like, again, people said that was a conspiracy theory, but you see, you explain this to them and they still say it's, that type of person, yeah.
All of it.
That's the people you gotta contend with when talking about this.
All of it sold as convenience. All of it's going to be predatory as hell. This is a direct attack on the middle and lower class. It's a way to keep people exactly where they are, stuck in a cycle of smaller payments while owning absolutely nothing at all, paying way more in the long run because the price is broken up just enough to feel manageable while they're able to keep them on the hook forever. And the worst part is that this already...
And one of those is, again, the Game Pass idea. If you say, no, I don't want to pay for your Game Pass, how many games do you lose just for choosing not to pay for Xbox Game Pass and just cutting that off? Like, games that, yeah, probably, again, games I don't know if you, there are games that you buy for free, but you spend money in. Like, imagine how much of that money just goes goodbye if you just choose, no, I don't want to pay for this anymore. Peace out.
Already works, which is exactly why these guys are going to keep doing it. Earlier, I showed a graphic breaking down where the paid audience is actually coming from, and what stood out to me is how obvious this divide really is. Hardcore players are making up the biggest share of the AAA audience, but the smallest share of free-to-play.
Well, hold on, let me look at this. First-person shooters, yeah, I mean, I can see this. Because a lot of, like, esports are into this. A lot of streamers do this. Open world action. Core gamers. Yeah, casual. Yeah, this makes sense. Casual gamers will often play the casual puzzle games like women, card casinos, and a lot of these, like, there's a lot of like mobile games that encompass these. You know, the type of games that you spend money like that are predatory in nature can encompass really all of these. So yeah, that makes sense. And again, for the first person shooters, like I'm surprised, like strategy games are not up here. I mean, if you're into the strategy game scene, you just get butt fucked every year, really. I mean, okay, you want, and I did a video about this, but just about every strategy game, like you get the base game that's like, I don't know, $50, $60. Let's say you can scratch out 100 or 200 hours from that. But then you get like a new faction, like for, I don't know, Solaris, $20. You know, another two new factions and another like fighting style or whatever, another $20. You know, oh, something else, another $20. And this goes so fucking high to where if you want to buy everything in the game, you're probably spending five, six, $700. Like, this is what strategy gamers have to deal with. And again, this is probably this is a subsect of a subsect of a subsect of a group of gamers, or the strategy gamers, and the ones that still hold on to still grasping that because there's nowhere else to go, because I've showed every single strategy game does this. Like, ever since Paradox does this, every single strategy game does this. So it's like you have nowhere else to go unless you're like me and you can mod it. And from mods you get in a lot of value, like almost infinite value.
Audience is actually coming from. And what stood out to me is how obvious this divide really is. Hardcore players are making up the biggest share of the AAA audience, but the smallest share of free-to-play. Meanwhile, core and casual players, the groups that are far more tied to lower and middle income brackets, are making up the majority of the free-to-play audience. And then I saw something much more uglier start to creep in. A whole category that doesn't register at all with hardcore players start showing up for everyone else. Cards and casino games. Fifth most for core gamers and third most for casual gamers. So when these companies are trying to push out ownership out of reach, they're not just trying to change the way that people play, they are trying to train these people to operate within a worse ecosystem, more exploitative ones. The exact kind of ecosystems that are built to bleed the most vulnerable people dry. This is why I try to warn people.
Yeah, and then going back on strategy gamers, like, again, you just they just accept this. They accept that they get milked, because again, like, I mean, they could play other games, but everyone has that one genre that they latch on to, and they're like, yes, this is me, this is what I know. And with strategy gamers, that's what they Paradox and like Total what is it, Creative Assembly prey upon. It's just that, you know.
Luckily, there is a bright side to all of this. The more inaccessible, predatory, and disgusting that these people continue to make video games, well, the more they just keep shoving players into the arms of somebody else. And in doing that, not only are they making their own problems worse, but they're also strengthening the very competition that is eating their market share. Competition that respects their time a lot more. Competition that respects these players' freedom a lot more. And right now, that means indie games and Valve. It wasn't all that long ago that we were talking about the pricing crash on Steam, where AAA games were not only losing market share, but getting outsold by indie games, but also the average price of games being sold on the platform had fell with it. The median price had dropped from around $20 to just over $14. And that matters because, well, it shows that there's still an enormous demand for games. People have not lost interest in gaming. They're just being forced to be a lot smarter with their money. And when given the choice between bloated, overpriced slop and cheaper, better, more focused games, well, more and more people are starting to choose the latter. And Valve, well, they're going to take that a step further.
Yeah, I see this is why Valve has just been getting attacked by all sides. And you see this with games like Stellar Blade and Crimson Desert and Black Myth Wukong. They're legitimately good games, even if you don't like them. Like, you gotta admit, they're just. I guess they're what the market truly wants, you know. Interesting games with interesting settings, even if the combat is just meh. And I thought this would be the case for Crimson Desert. The combat's surprisingly good. I enjoy it. It's satisfying RKOing someone through a damn lookout post or clotheslining some pregnant woman. That doesn't happen. You can't clothesline a pregnant woman. But if you could, it'd make the game better. But, you know, you have good, legitimately good games getting shit on by game journalists, you know. Sony actively tries to kill the games that it publishes for. Like, they try to do this with Helldivers, and they try to do this with Stellar Blade. Which, and in Crimson Desert seen this, they're like, nope, we are not taking this. We're self-publishing. Thank you very little. And that just was a better decision for them. I think another Black Myth game's coming out, and I am all for it. But if you do try to go indie, you know, it should get, I mean, not try to go. If you're successful when you go indie or when you go into competition with AAA games, you will be attacked. You know, there's a lot of things that go, like discussions and that go along behind closed doors, that from developers to developers that the average normie doesn't understand. Like, apparently Crimson Desert knew somehow that they were going to get shat on. They just didn't really care. They're like, yeah, we know they're going to come after it. Like, there are a lot of things behind closed doors between, I guess, them, and again, grain of salt, them and journalists, them and other publishers, you know, them and Sony, which is like, I don't, they because the self-publishing thing, like, they would have gone, they'd get a lot of money from Sony if they did that. But again, there are a lot of stipulations where they're like, no, this is dumb, we're not doing this, we're self-publishing. And the consumer doesn't really know that. The consumer, to be fair, doesn't need to. All they want to know is this game worth my money, worth my time? Do I get enjoyment out of this game? And if yes, here's my money. Like, gaming is a one area where the consumer, the gamer, has a voice and will put their money towards what they want regardless of what the industry tries to do.
Valve updated its regional pricing tools to help developers automate their pricing based on local purchasing power, not just flat currency conversion. And that's a huge difference. I don't think people really understand this, because instead of just charging somebody what the equivalent
Wait. Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking about that.
USD is in another currency and then pretending like that's somehow fair. Instead, this system is trying to reflect what $20 actually means inside that economy. In some places, $20 is not casual spending. It is a big chunk of somebody's week. So Valve,
so they can allow the studio itself to individually set the price depending on currency instead of just the flat system. Again, the flat system was used a lot as like sort of a gimmick. You know, you'd have someone in Turkey, but they'd say they're an American streamer and make a lot of money. A lot of that USD, which is a fuck ton in Turkey. But they're allowing, like, that's huge, because most, like, what other storefront gives you that ability? And this is also yet another thing that will attack piracy. Again, piracy is an accessibility issue. So if people can access the game, they'll have no reason to pirate. Like, Valve is the one storefront that is a monopoly simply because they're giving the consumer what they want and not, trying to look at predatory ways on how to milk them. I mean, Valve isn't perfect, but what other storefront just allows you to set your own terms depending on the currency?
Is effectively making it easier for developers to price their games in a way that real people can actually afford. Now, in combination with this, and honestly, the timing couldn't be any better, but we're probably about to see another wave of even stronger indie titles because making them just got a hell of a lot more accessible and a hell of a lot more cheaper. Valve just signed a deal with the makers of Garry's Mod to build Sandbox, a version of Source 2 with simplified creation tools and features that are brought over from Unreal and Unity, while also still maintaining the...
Yeah, like, I think the GZ Doom engine, whatever it was called, or I think it's literally just called GZ Doom, did the same thing. Like, you get a lot of these, like, interesting, well, I guess technically Doom clones because they're using that engine. But they're interesting. They're made by indie studios. I think Sulaco was made in that. Isn't Bolt Gun made in that same engine? Or at least a modified version? Like, just giving devs the tools to make whatever the hell they want is just... It gives infinite value. Like, it's priceless. You cannot put a price on that.
Kind of optimization and performance that Source is known for, making it easier to not only build great-looking games, but also games for lower-end hardware, which is a pretty big deal. An even bigger deal, though, is that it's all royalty-free, and Gary Newman, the maker of Garry's Mod and Sandbox, explained exactly why when he said, "Valve gave me a chance. I'm already rich. I don't want to fuck anyone over. I only want to give opportunities to the next generation like Valve did to me. We can all win together."
Fucking banger statement, right? He just straight up said it. He's like, I made all the money in the world. Why the hell do I just want to, hoard my engine, make it to where nobody else can? That'd definitely be very AAA of me to do, but I'm just not going to do that. Absolute banger statement.
Man, is that not a massive contrast from the rest of the industry? So now you're not only making it easier for smaller developers to make games of their own, make better games of their own, make more games for more people, avoid royalties, release their games directly onto Steam, but you're also letting these guys keep more of their revenue and also cut down on the kind of overhead that is constantly being shoved straight onto customers. And I think this goes to show just how unnecessary all of this is. While some of the biggest companies in the industry are trying to find more ways to make gaming more expensive, more restrictive, and more predatory, somebody else is out there trying to make games easier to make, easier to distribute, easier to make money off of, and easier for people to actually afford. That's the split. You got one side that's building ladders, and the other side is trying to build toll booths. At some point, we got to stop pretending like
No, it's one side building ladders, the other side trying to kick the fucking ladder down. Because make no mistake, Valve is under attack. Indie projects, and how I heard even indie studios are being attacked. Just even regardless if they make a good game, regardless of what the market wants, the gamer wants, the chud wants. Like, these studios are under attack. Because they're doing what the consumer, they have the gall to give the gamer what the fuck they want. Journalists will go after them and their products. Like, let's not mince words here, right? There is this enforced compliance of, between AAA companies and in the industry to go after the market.
It's just some market or inflation or it's just bad luck. This is a choice. And if this industry keeps choosing to push normal people out of gaming, well, then they're definitely going to deserve what comes next. I remember this one time where I was uninsured, no savings, and I chipped a tooth. And for basically an entire month, I had to eat Tylenol like it was candy until I could save up money. And then I finally got the Crown, and when I did, I still had to make payments on it. But
Yeah, like I remember, like I had a corneal ulcer, and I don't have a job, so I don't have insurance. Nice of them to cut that insurance off literally immediately after me dropping that, getting laid off from the job. But man, that was like about $1.50. Like, and I'm in no way, shape, or form living from paycheck to paycheck. Like I'm doing relatively well, but imagine being someone who is. Imagine being someone, and again, you don't underestimate people's ability to cut back. Like they're not going to be happy, they're not going to enjoy it, but people will cut back. But you shouldn't have to. Like in 2010, okay, there were people living paycheck to paycheck, but you'd think, okay, you're making 50 grand a year. You can live off of that. You might not live the luxury, but you can live. Nowadays, living off 50 grand a year, like that, like, did they even change the poverty level? Like, I think the poverty level is like 30 grand or 40 grand. Like, I say like a lot because I'm thinking, did they even change that, or is it still there despite everything going up? Or is it the same? Like, people living like that, and again, people want to live with some fucking dignity, like they do want to put money aside for their hobbies regardless of their living situation. They do want to indulge regardless of their living situation. Like, people want some fucking dignity. But the prices keep increasing to the point where they can't. That's where we're at right now.
the entire time that I was going through all of that, the one thing that I had was that I had a crippling addiction to playing EA NHL, where I was doing these online hockey leagues on a website where you get with a group and you guys play through like whole tournament brackets and stuff. And while it was the only game that I had time for while I was working that much, it saved me a lot of money, and it also saved me a lot of pain. It got me through it. I'll never forget that. And that's why I take all of this so seriously. This is why I want people to have fair access to entertainment, because I know how important it is. And also, going through everything, I also know how predatory the world has become over the years. And I'm going to keep calling it out. I should keep calling it out. Anybody that has the opportunity should, every single chance they get. And, you know, when you're coming from low income, everything is chip damage. Everything is built against you. You know, I had to take a job.
Yeah, and you're living if you're living low income now, like, you're just getting completely reamed from all sides. Gas is increasing. You know, they're increasing the utility here where I'm living again after the first increase. You know, and again, things like utility, they're monopolies. So what are you going to do? Like, other than cut back? And again, people will cut back, but you're not going to be very happy. You know, if you try to cut off the bread and circus, if you try chipping away at that, people just get mad. And what do you think people do when they get mad? And it also comes to the point where you think you can just gouge people and make more money off of them, but then they cut back to the point where you're not actually making as much money than you think you will. And in some cases, you're making less money than you think you will because people are in survival mode. You know, that's why as a monopoly, you can't just keep increasing prices, because you realize there is that, like, zone where you're just going to lose more than you gain. Like, hell, I've even cut back. I used to leave my computers on low power mode. Now I just turn them off. Like, I hate losing all my tabs, right, for like my game and for the videos I'm making thumbnails, but hey, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Where I worked across the country, working 14 to 16 hour days, 7 days a week just to be able to crawl my way out over 4 years to find security. Then I stumbled into this job. Thank you, guys. You have no idea. Thank you, guys. But, you know, the entire time I just learned how everything is built against you. And here you now have these game companies that want to come in and they want to add another layer on top of that. No. Don't let them do it. Walk away. Find something else. Find other games to support. Find other platforms to support. Figure out your hardware situation. Buy a PC. Buy a small PC. A tiny build. You don't need anything crazy, man. You know, even if it's an older gaming laptop, play indie games and do that instead. This is not going to work out for these guys. Abandoning the lower and middle class is essentially just going to dry up all of your earnings.
Yeah, and again, it's always the lower and the middle class that just gets fucked over, and this is just outside of gaming. Like, you're fucked over with healthcare. You're fucked over with utilities because they can just squeeze more out of you. You're fucked over with gas prices and prices of food because you're just getting chipped away at. You know, again, 50 grand a year nowadays, like, you can live off any income. You're just not going to be too happy that you have to. You know, hell, I started door dashing because I just don't like sitting around. And I mean, what? I make $100 a day, you know, 7 days a week. Or hell, I could even go like 5 days a week. And I mean, I can live off of that. Now, I'm not going to be too happy. I'm not going to be going out to eat or ordering DoorDash myself, but it is possible. Like, I think, not to talk too much about myself again, I think I got a good mortgage rate on my house. I don't pay too much to internet, and I don't really need, like, oh, that's the couch. Oh, that was the door. I don't really need TV or anything. I mean, I can survive off of that. But, you know, again, people get accustomed and comfortable with how things are now. You know, not the changes of everything that will happen in the next 3 years. Like in 2010, people were comfortable then where they were until COVID hit, and now there's this, people say the new normal. Well, it doesn't have to be the new normal. Why can't we go back to the old normal? I mean, stupid question, because nobody really, the people that change and can manipulate the market don't want it to go back to the old normal. But, I mean, like I said, people will adapt. And this is what's happening with the gaming industry. People are adapting. They're holding their money close until games like Crimson Desert come out. Then they're like, please take my money. Like, this is the only voice I have. This is the only horse I have in this race. Because, Activision's not going to listen to you. Blizzard's not going to listen to you. Ubisoft isn't going to listen to you. No matter how far down they fall and how much they fail, they will just never admit that what they've done is wrong. So you really just have that cold hard cash to give towards the things you want.
Guys actually think that they're actually going to be able to support everything using the upper class. It's not going to happen just because by their nature, the upper class typically does not spend that much time playing these kind of games or spending money on this kind of entertainment. They have other...
But they do invest, right? And this is why I'm talking about the Ouroboros of fucking investment. Like, you'll have one company invest into another tech company, which will invest into a third tech company, which will invest into a fourth tech company, which will invest into the first tech company, and they just move that money around every quarter of a year. And like I said, 20, 30, 40% interest, compounding interest off several $1 million, 10, 20, 30 million dollars. That's probably more money than you make in a year, if I'm thinking about it. So yeah, they can. kind of live off the upper class, again, with the investments and the dividends. But is that a healthy market, right? Or is it like, you know, Saudi Arabia, which has huge wealth disparity because, like, they don't really need to care about their people because they make a lot of money because they're the monopoly on oil. Like, they have a lot of oil sheiks, right? So you have that upper class. I mean, you have a middle class, but it's dwindling. But then you have the sheep herders, and you do have just people that move out because there is no job uh, prospects because they're hiring, the Indians that move there and are effectively the slave class, you know, that can't leave and they're paid literal pennies. Like, this is kind of where the entertainment sector is becoming, this wealth class of companies that just move money between each other. Which is why, again, you just have products fail and fail again, and they lose money. And you see the numbers, right? You're like, in any other market situation that's bad, but you see they just don't care. They lose. They come move to another project, and it also loses money. And they move to another project, and it also loses money. And it's like, okay, they shut down 2 or 3 studios. But I mean, unless it's the case of Ubisoft, where the gravy train is infinitely running out, you probably have a good 3-4 years, if any, that these companies can continue to do this.
Other forms of entertainment that they spend money on, and you're just not going to get the same level of income or the same level of loyalty that you would normally see from people that are somewhere in the middle.
Yeah, and again, they don't care for loyalty. Like, the consumer faith of like any AAA company is just took a nosedive. Like, maybe there's, I mean, I think BioWare maybe has one more game left in them. Bethesda, they make games for dads and nostalgia. I mean, I'm really trying to think of what AAA company people have faith in. Like, people have faith that EA's will be shitty. That's the only faith people have, is that they will be the absolute worst company known to man. And I personally think Ubisoft's worse, because Ubisoft actively shits on their consumer base, whereas EA, I mean, they've always just been an ad. I mean, they published good games in the past, but I've also heard of a lot of stingy and stupid publishing, like, contracts between them and studios that made good games. But I mean, again, what AAA company, Western company, has like the faith of the consumer? And there's probably one. There's probably a AA or indie studio that made hundreds of millions just for giving people the game they want. Valve. I mean, Valve is AAA. I mean, they are gaming. They make games. I mean, okay, I answered my own question. I mean, I'm telling you, there were some. I mean, Valve is one of them, right?
These guys are just going to continue to lose money at an ever-increasing rate, and it's going to get to the point where it's just going to collapse these companies entirely. Maybe that's what has to happen. Maybe that's the only way for any of this to be able to fix, is for some of these guys to just straight up go out of business, or to just have their stock cut in half, their staffs cut in half, and their presence cut in half, and then just lose to somebody else.
I mean, again, unless it's the Ubisoft situation, where, again, you suck up such good IPs like Star Wars, and you have like such good intellectual property that you just make shit from, and even their investors are like, "What the hell?" Like you made Star Wars Outlaws and it's just trash, you know. Assassin's Creed trash. Like what the hell, man?
I don't know. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you guys did enjoy the video, like the video, subscribe to the channel, share it with your friends, share it on social media. Follow me on Twitch, follow me on Twitter. I always actually really like seeing you guys posting stuff on social media. I always get a notification or a tag because of it, and it's always like, that's nice. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Stay cool, stay righteous, stay safe. Catch you in the next one. Peace.
On God, on gang. Yeah, I mean, I agree with what he's saying. I just don't think it will work out the way he wants, because I talk to devs and to people in the scene, and they can just straight up tell you, again, this is why I learned the whole Ouroboros of investment that's happening between game companies and, you know, whatever grants and government grants and shit that they're getting. You know, it's like I want that to happen. I just don't think it will. Or at least not now. Older games sailing the 7 seas, and indie games are going to be having creativity in gaming. Yeah, see, Sean understands what's going on. So, Sean CJ0936 understand, like, people aren't getting pushed out. People refuse to get pushed out of the gaming market. Like, you don't understand what the gamer is. You know, the gamer is that weirdo, is that dude who, you know, some gamers, they don't care for anything. They don't vote. They just want to go home and play their goddamn games. And you think that type of person is going to allow others to push them out of a space? No, they're going to build that spite and use that spite against them, even if it's putting money towards games that they normally wouldn't buy, but because it's what the market wants, it's what they'll do. Increase the price of 5-year-old hardware is utter insane. Did the PlayStation 5 come out 5 years ago? Oh my god, I think it did. I mean, COVID was like a hyperbolic time chamber. CEOs out there acting like victims because you won't buy their awful decisions. Yeah. Why would the market, and this is again, the gaming industry is the only industry that thinks this way. Like, the entertainment industry is the only industry that will attack you, the consumer, for not consuming the product. It is so weird. The long-term effects are going to be brutal. I know, man. I went outside yesterday. Oh my god! Baffles me how digital media has become so much more expensive than physical media without even having to deal with logistics. Again, it's perception, it's the mindset. The Concord tax is real. Oh my god, bro, you're right. No customer asks them to use AI. It's corporate greed, plain and simple. Again, my thing on the whole AI thing is it's used to fire people that they were going to end up firing anyway. And then, they implement it, they use it. Nah, it's not what we want. So they shelve it till it gets better. I'm a paraplegic 33-year-old man who spent the last year bedridden due to medical issues. I wouldn't have made it without gaming. Fact. I even seen a thing where a guy that doesn't have, like, hands get implanted with the Neuralink, and he just played Age of Wonders 4 for like 12 hours overnight. The bro's having the time of his life. Was it where he didn't have hands, or was there something else? I don't know. But bro was having the fucking time of his life, probably. And again, good on him. Act broke, stay rich is high-level corporate gossip. gospel. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what probably happened is they looked at their forecast and they're like, okay, we're going to lose this amount of money if we keep doing this. Let's fire people, even if that happens or not. Lobster used to be considered a poor fisherman's food. Yeah, like lobster used to be the thing that you could just pick up off a rock and just eat right then and there, and it would be shameful until a couple of Hollywood actors were eating lobster. Then all of a sudden it became a rich man's food. Which part of that is how many of us are still going scrap. Hold on. Worst part is that many of us are still going scrape up money and still buying at this price point. That's why it keeps increasing again. I mean, I've already discussed it. They can increase the price, and it just really doesn't matter. These companies generally think infinite growth is possible. They did during COVID until that was proven wrong, and now they're firing all the people that they hired. Inviting an investor in your gaming company is like inviting a vampire into the orphanage. Both are blood-sucking leeches that see the kids as a source. Again, like, no one talks about the gamer as an investor. It's like the investor and the person that buys your product are two separate entities, and this is the mindset at was why we are where we're at. Like, they don't look at the consumer anymore. When grocery and gas have doubled in price, salaries stay stagnant, luxuries, gaming are going to be the first thing cut out of a budget. Nah, yeah, well, yes, but I mean, people who are gamers, like, you have older games that you'll just fire up and play. And again, if you have a PC, let's just say if you want to play a game, you will. You will find it and you will play it. Arg me mateys. But anyway, that's all I gotta say about this. Peace.